Hi again, everyone, and welcome to Badger Breakdown, brought to you by U.S. Cellular. I'm Mike Lucas from UWBadgers.com. I'm joined by the voice of the Badgers, Matt Lepay. And maybe it's a curse and a charm for college football, but there's an ebb and flow every weekend. So you have an Iowa team that runs into a buzzsaw at Maryland, and then Maryland comes to Madison and has the same reception. Go figure.
Yeah, and Wisconsin this time last week talking about the Badgers, thinking, oh boy, how are they going to fare against a Maryland team that travels real well, and are they going to be able to get back in the race and stay in the race? And now it's like, ooh, they're really in the race here. 52-7, they played really a complete game, all three phases. They dominated Maryland. Now you want to see if they can take that act on the road here, which we're going to be spending the next couple of weeks away from Camp Aranda.
If you talk to any of the players after that game last Saturday, and if you asked them, did you see this coming? And if they were honest, they said no. Yeah. And no one saw the way they beat down Maryland to that extent.
Well, Maryland had scored regularly. In fact, it was a school record coming in here, 24 points or more in, 6 or 7 straight games. They had won 5 straight away from home. They had a tough time with Ohio State. They had a bump here and there, but really they came to town probably thinking, and rightfully so, that they could play with the Badgers, if not beat the Badgers here. And it was no contest. It was a field position game early. The Badgers had a big edge in that department. Maryland took a chance early, went for it, missed. Badgers made him pay. And Melvin Gordon had his 3 touchdowns, 123 yards. You can't run for 175 every week, I guess, but he had a lot of help. And that was big. Now you just hope that they can carry that forward.
And the DC, Dave Aranda, had a great plan for the Terps, and the players then went out and executed it. And you have to believe just the presence of Warren Herring and Marcus Trotter made a big difference.
You would think. It certainly gives them depth, among other things, and not to mention experience, guys who've been around a long time. And you mentioned what Dave Aranda was able to do. Maryland did nothing. The first drive, it moved the ball pretty well. It bogged down. The last drive, yeah, they scored to prevent the shutout. But there were about 9 possessions there in between where they did absolutely nothing. They could not move the chain. It was just a dominant defensive performance against a Badger team right now that's playing some pretty good defense.
Vince Biegel, who's Mr. Excitement, Mr. Animated on almost every play, had a chance for a scoop and score. But I liked how he explained it afterwards. He said it was far more important in the red zone to make sure you got possession, they didn't have it.
Yeah, he got the ball and the whistle didn't blow, so you play through. But he definitely went down there and recovered it. The replay clearly showed that he had one, maybe both knees on the ground, but if the whistle doesn't blow, you play through it. And that's, I think, the way any coach would want his guys to play, and that's obviously how Vince Biegel plays. We talked about it before the first game. There was somebody to watch. He's going to do something about every game, maybe multiple things that gets people excited. And they had a lot of guys who did things that get people excited. But Biegel is often right.
It's fun to watch, isn't he?
He is. It really is.
We saw yet another installment, a chapter of the quarterback tandem of Joel Stave and Tanner McEvoy. It looks like they're inching closer and closer to what they want.
It is. And I don't know if anybody in the offices or any of the coaches are going to say it was ideal. If you go back to August, say, boy, sure hope we get to play 2 quarterbacks a lot this year. But this is who they are right now. This is the best way to go about it. And you're right, Tanner McEvoy was able to do what he does really well. He ran the ball, had the long run, very well blocked. I know Gary Anderson talked about that, some young receivers helping pave the way for him. And Joel Stave was able to throw the ball down the field. They got some big hits in the passing game. They've been waiting for that all season. You get 43 and 47-yard completions to Alex Erickson in that game, the second one for a touchdown. So they're able to blend it. You're able to use one quarterback who could hurt you one way and another quarterback who could hurt you another.
And I thought that first big play from Stave to Erickson was kind of a statement because they went to work on one of the better corners, if not the best corner in the Big Ten this year. If you look at him statistically, William Likely.
Yeah, who's not the biggest guy, 5'7". We talked about it last week, but he's a guy who can. He's had 2 interception returns for touchdowns already of the 4 that he has, 4 interceptions that he has, and. We've been waiting on a weekly basis. We talk about, well, you need to see if you can stretch defenses vertically. The Badgers were able to do that. Now you want to see if they can do it again.
Now, in the early part of this season, Rutgers started off very strong. But a couple of injuries now have been significant. Number one, it lost its tailback, Paul James, who's done for the year. And now the question mark over Gary Nova and the injury that he suffered last week.
All-time leader for Rutgers in touchdown passes in his career. Yes, he has thrown a fair amount of interceptions as well, but he's a pretty tough guy. I think Kyle Flood talked about that a lot, about his quarterback Flood, the head coach there. If he can't go, they bring in someone who played in the second half of last week's game against Nebraska. The book, though, is that the offense doesn't change a whole lot. This is kind of going back to pro style. As Coach Anderson says, what Rutgers does is a lot of what the Badgers do. So
very true.
Yeah, so the variety, again, continues with the kind of teams they're going to face, but this is a pretty familiar look to them.
It's about toughness, too, don't you think? We both looked at Rutgers early in the season, saw the same thing. They'll play physical football.
And they will play in front of a loud crowd. You know, the weather forecast as we record this sounds a little shaky there, but that probably would make a loud crowd louder. They're talking about a sellout there. They had great atmosphere when they played Michigan, when they played Penn State. You know, this is whereas the Maryland folks, I never got a vibe at the Big Ten meetings about how excited they are or aren't about getting into the Big Ten. The Rutgers people, you just got a sense, or at least I did, that they were pretty pumped up about this, and the crowds have demonstrated that. And you know, let's be honest here, the Badgers have not played in a hostile environment in 2 months. You know, the road game, the true road game at Northwestern, that's not a venue known for its raucous atmosphere. The so-called neutral game in front of a pro LSU crowd, that was August 30th. This will probably be a pretty noisy crowd, which is something they haven't faced against them for a while.
And more so than anything else, the test is, can you sustain the momentum that you generated against Maryland?
Which they're going to have to do with the game this week, and then going back on the road against a Purdue team that's showing signs of improvement under Darrell Hazel. We said it last week, and you hope for the Badgers' sake we can keep saying it. They control things, and I think what you want to do right now, if they can take care of things this week and next, then you make the Nebraska game, you make that second half of November very, very big.
It's all about staying alive. For Matt Lepay, I'm Mike Lucas. Thanks for watching Badger Breakdown, brought to you by US Cellular.